What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Plio, and today we are back with the Ever Crisis podcast. And I have my pleasure to have Edward here with me. So we're going to discuss: is the game going to die? We're going to discuss Powercreep. We're going to discuss many different things, and we're going to take 1 minute to share the link with our friends, colleagues, and etc. So just give me a second. I'm going to start sharing links in a sec. So if you like this type of content, please consider throwing a like and subscribe to the channel. You know how it goes. We would like to continue this series. And, it seems small, but sometimes subscribers do help bring in different type of content into the channel. So please, do what you find best with that information. All right. So let's share here. Also here.
Oh, I think. Fuck. Let me see. There it is. All right.
I'm just sharing the official Discord, and then we will jump straight into the video. All right. So, are you ready then?
1 moment.
Awesome.
And I will be right with you.
Fantastic, because I have so many questions for you. So, yeah, let me check everything that is ready.
All right.
So,
now I am officially ready. 1 moment.
Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. So, let's start. I wanted to start asking you about Sid. Sid was released 3 weeks ago. What do you think about Sid? What is he bringing to the table? What makes him a good unit or a bad unit? Type of question. Without asking should you pull, because the banner is gone. But yeah, what do you think about Sid?
Sid is actually a complicated case. It's one of those units that you cannot exactly say that you must pull or you shouldn't pull. Is a complex unit. He's not meant for new players, I think. So somebody starting now doesn't have anything, just want to pull. I don't think that this unit is going to offer something to them to at least start clearing content. But for veterans, he offers unique tools to the table that will definitely help with many battles. And I think that also the way that the unit plays isn't straightforward. And Feeble isn't a straightforward mechanic in general, because it boosts debuffs of any kind, including defensive and offensive. And it also, because he's not a DPS unit, but he's not a healer, and he is not your dedicated support unit like, for example, Red or Barrett is. His utility is there to do something specific, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it's like missing pieces in a big puzzle. So, me being a whale, I did pull. And I also believe that the weapon itself, the limited weapon that they released, regardless of you using Sid or not, as a weapon, as a stat stick, is one of the best ones. It's always going to be there, unless power creeped by a strictly better version of that stat stick, in which case we will going to use both. So I don't think it's going away anytime soon. So that's why I like it as a safe pull.
So how would you rate Sid, for example, versus we have two other units that have changed the game in a way or another? Angel came and he is clearly the tank, and then Vincent is a fan favorite. I'm obsessed with Vincent, but independently of that, he has been so useful in many guild PvP battles. How do you compare Sid with the other two?
Okay, let's start with the straightforward answer. Angel is a way more important unit as is. So, say you don't have any of those two, and you have only the option of getting one of them to get the core arsenal out of them. Angeal is more important because he's the tank. He's the first tank we get in the game that actually plays the role of the tank, including defensive stats, being able to provoke, being able to withstand things, and doing that role completely. Without Angeal, there are certain options that you simply cannot access in the game. You don't have a tank. Okay? Vincent is a great unit, is one of my personal favorite units because I like the character, but I'm biased towards that. But if you look at it strictly from the strategic point of view, is optional.
Yeah.
It's just one DPS, including many other DPS options that we have. And even his reprieve, we now have reprieve on other characters as well. So it's not that we need this unique ability there, which we don't have access anywhere else. So it obviously, and this is why I don't, you'll never hear me say get this DPS over that DPS over this DPS, because DPS in the game is going to rotate all the time. It depends on the current banner and the current fight that this banner is for each time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Angeal is, in general, way more powerful. By the way, like Kevin was saying in chat, Sid doesn't have enough tools yet, especially since his general pool weapons are pretty meh, which I agree. Like, I think Sid is missing some better sub-weapons. Angeal had so many good sub-weapons. Like, if you invested on that unit, it's almost like you have a lot of pot power in your account. And I agree with Vincent with just like one point that I think this is something that I learned from Chaos actually recently, which I totally forgot. The second limit break of Vincent has something that I think nobody else has, which is this thing of like physical down high, magical attack down high, which ignores resistance, which is fantastic. And I keep forgetting that it does that. And it's such a powerful utility, especially in the Sephiroth Crash, for example, that you could do that. It was like, wow, this is insane. This is like super powerful. So, yeah.
Not only I agree, it's one of the things that I first mentioned when I saw the unit is, and here's the problem. Because we are whaling, we don't use it that much.
Exactly.
But if you're free to play, and I saw this with my wife's, for example, free to play account, this unit with this limit was actually going over 75% of the content just by having this limit alone. So yes, I agree that this is a very specific utility that will offer options that you otherwise do not have. Yeah. And you don't have to pay for that. It's there.
It's there. 100%. And it's not like a banner. Yeah. I can't wait also to see like more from Sid. Like I think a stop is gonna be quite important, but at the same time, I think it's not going to be.
I'm not holding hopes. In general, the problem with status effects is that they can very easily make people immune to them.
Yeah.
So they are from busted to irrelevant. And that can happen for example, we had silence and we had stun with other weapons on Lucia and Cloud. We never used them because the things that we need to use them on are immune to them. So stop. I like it that they actually involve battles of us using it, but I'm not holding high hopes on this being every time available for us. And this is where the problem that, as you say, the chat mentioned is general weapon pool, is that many weapons favor stop.
Yeah.
So let's say that you don't have stop. People are immune to stop. All of a sudden, Sid is half a unit.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Enfeeble, right? It could be immune to Enfeeble. Like it happened in one fight, I think, already. Don't remember which one.
It's still a status effect. Like any other status effects that you apply, the game may or may not choose that, this thing should not be abused. And this is why I say that this is a whale character. Is that it's nice to have, but if you don't have it, chances are, if you're not a whale, you're not gonna attempt every crash fight or every ranking event to get top 10.
Absolutely.
So if there's one ranking event where, for example, Sid would get you to top 10 where otherwise you would not, but you're not a whale anyway, then you would not get that top 10 anyway. So it doesn't matter that you don't have access to this unit from the free to play standpoint. But from the whale standpoint, on the other hand, because he offers unique tools, it's unavoidable that you need to have him at least to some degree.
Yeah. And
The radiate lance, the scimitar, the poleaxe, I think is the other name, are the three ones that are probably the top contenders of his original weapon pool. And I'm sure that a couple of others will creep in somehow because he has some options, especially some AoE options that we can use.
Yeah, he has some. I think it was Poleaxe, the one that we were using in Crash, when you do physical attack down and magic attack down mid, and then you can go up to high. But it seems that Angel had better options in comparison, especially like the raw stats in the sub weapons. They were clearly better in Angel in comparison to Sid.
Yeah, but Angel also has this offensive tank or DPS option, hence why the stats matter more to him.
Yes.
If they are not aiming to have Sid as a DPS unit, which at least for now that's how it seems like, he's similar kind of like the cat. So it's a utility character that has some options that you use, but they are not healers, they are not dedicated support, they are something. I think this is where the unit is so far, at least, developed.
Yeah, I think we can totally compare Sid with Kite Sid. I think they are, for now, they are similar. Tony was saying in chat that Tifa is pretty OP and Yuffie will be the most powerful because her ultimate weapon really made her much better. But once again, you will have to have pull 3 times on her banners. And he agrees that they cater too much for waste as of late, which is like leads to my next topic. Although before we go into that topic, talking about roles and the state of the game, what do you think we're missing, or what would you like to see next?
In terms of events,
In
or
terms of roles from units, like we have like Angel being the tank, we have Sid being a new support unit, offensive for now.
I would like a second tank, and the reason why is because we would like to have this. For example, we have 2 healers. We have Matt and we have Eric, and we have a couple of others which can double as healers as a secondary role. So I would like a second tank, and Barrett was already halfway there. So I would like, preferably Barrett, to be that tank, because this will give also players more options to dance around battles easier with whatever they have available.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that would be the first priority. We're not missing DPS. We have DPS. We're not missing healers. We're actually out heal many things at this point. I think we have way too much support given lately, and the thing that is underdeveloped is the tank. So I would like to see more options there.
I think that's probably going to be Barret because we have seen his ultimate weapon. Although we haven't seen the banner, but it could perhaps be Barret. Do you think it's gonna be Barret, or do you think they are gonna still ignore him as a tank?
Barret and Red. If we take, for example, the remake trilogy on how they use the characters, they could be the 2 options. Because Red has this vengeance mechanic in the game where he, just tanks and then attacks. Barret is also a very defensive character, so I think that the natural choice for players to expect tanks to be chosen from those 2 units. But at the same time, you might see, for example, now that Glenn got Provoke, you might see some options there as well. As a secondary role.
Maybe. Well, if it was Glenn, it would be fun because Glenn has been one of those units that have been there in the bench, like Lucia, for example, that I would love to see way more. By the way, I don't know where the stories of the chapters went because we got 4 stories, and I think that feature has been like totally missing. But I would love to see Lucia's story.
Yeah, I think that those were just missing things that they wanted to address real quick because most of those stories, by the way, they were things that were addressed in novels. So they just took parts of those novels, abridged them, and made them into a story in the game.
Oh, right.
So unless something else exists that they want to carry over, I don't think they will do more. at
Right.
least in the foreseeable future. We'll see.
Yeah, for me, like it's been like a miss. Anyhow, let's put a point there. Tony was saying, hi Lily, by the way, and hi Chaos, Pro Uke,
Hello.
are the GR9. Tony was saying that Angel, I feel he was a much better flash out unit right out the gate. I totally agree with that. Barret, he's asking, Barret was a range tank per se in remake slash rebirth, but with Glenn they gave him a tank weapon. And Red came off as a close range tank. I think also true that Red could actually sometimes be like a tank, which in a way will suit him so good because he has this ability, right, to remove the physical attack buff and the magical attack buff like Matt does. So it could be super powerful if he could get Veil or Provoke as well. You know what I would love to see? It's like someone that will allow us to do like better combos. Like for example, something that will say, I use this ability that cost me 4 ATBs, and then the next thing that someone else will cast, ignore everything. So for example, I use this ability and then I put that into, let's say, Cloud, and the next hit from Cloud is going to ignore resistance, so then he can do physical defense down high with hard edge. I would love to see someone like that, someone like with a new set of tools that allow for more combos. It costs you,
Interestingly,
yeah.
I think that Sid is the character for that.
I'm
The
hoping
way
so.
that he is designed.
Yes,
It's like he's poking holes for the next guy to
exactly.
come in and do whatever it is that they need to do.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I'm excited about the potential, not about what he is right now, but I think he could be very good if he continues that idea of like, I'm just a supporter, you're gonna do the work, so yeah, I'm just gonna let you smash it, but I'm not the main protagonist or the main DPS or the main even the main support. I'm not that person. I'm just allowing the main something to do their thing. I will love that. Kind of like in card games where you can play combos and things like that. Like, and that's something that I'm missing. But yeah, who knows?
I think that the way that they handle this is because not every character is fan favorite, and also not every character is easy. And because the game is played by different people, I
Yeah.
think that they have easy mode and hard mode, kind of like hard coded into characters. So some characters are not meant for people that just casually want to play the game. Some
Absolutely.
other characters are supposed to you take the sharp metal stick and make holes. So Sid is designed for people that just want to have a gimmick.
Yes.
Cat was designed like that as well. Whether it's good or bad, that's another discussion entirely. But the main approach here was like that. Angeal, on the other hand, was a straightforward tank. It's like, take this unit,
Yeah.
tank.
And use it. Yeah. Tony's saying that the more damage he takes, the faster his LB bar builds as well. Which I didn't know, by the way. That's pretty
There,
good.
there are many things there. Sid is for those people that just want the challenge of discovering how to play with Sid.
Yeah. And I would say how to play with Sid and also how to play manual, because you need to be really manual to like doing all the tricks, etc., in the right timing and so on and so forth. Which is why I'm so excited about the potential, but it's not there yet. And I think I read somewhere that we might get a new banner for him in a month or two, which I can't wait, to be honest, because I think his second and third banner are gonna be quite key to really tell which role is he going to play in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But what is true is like, Sid is a whale unit. And GL perhaps not so much, because like if you just have a couple of weapons, you could be a tank. And it's true, like the game is pushing us to whale perhaps way too often, which is perhaps why the community is upset or feeling like a feeling of resentment. And that's the question mark of the podcast. Like, is EOS end of service coming soon? What do you think about this topic?
If you give me like 5 minutes to give a
Yeah,
bit of background information here, I can actually help address this better.
hold on, go
Because
on.
it's not a straightforward answer of this is gonna happen or this is not gonna happen. So, um, TLDR, I don't think EOS is coming soon. I think that whatever contract they signed is gonna be fulfilled until the period that they have already established in that contract. And here comes the
Yeah.
reason why.
So I agree, by the way, and also like the more I check the numbers, I think we are still far from EOS, but it's true that we are sometimes in a turning point. And now, please, like, explain your thoughts.
We are most people when they think about companies, they think about mom and pop store companies. Like I do something for my clients like it, I do it more, my clients don't like it, I do it less. And I take that straightforward feedback and just adjust and pivot. That would be the business of old, but it's not how business is operating right now, because especially with publicly traded companies. The reason is the capital behind the publicly traded companies is way larger than people understand. And that capital comes from institutions, banks, insurance companies, hedge funds, other type of institutions where large amounts of money are traded, and most of that amounts of money is not their own to trade however they want to. It's not like you investing from your basement to whatever you feel like it because you have the gut feeling that this is going to be better or not, because they are institutions. So what happens with publicly traded companies is that in order for them to operate, they need large amounts of money. That amount of money come from those institutions, and those institutions get that money usually from things like pensions, bank packages like your insurance, safety, whatever nest that you're trying to amass, investment portfolios, and so on and so forth of common folk. They themselves also are accountable. So they try to invest this, whatever, when a bank tells you, we are trying to get your money and invest them into a safe portfolio of netting you 5% a year, that's where they invest in. They just get the money into a large pool, they hedge it as much as possible, hence, for example, the term hedge funds, to be under the principle that not every company is going to fail altogether. And if we try and invest them into a diametrically opposed pool, even if one is going to is going to go down, the other one's going to go up. So the idea here is that they invest according to something that needs to be quantified. And here lies the problem. You can't quantify temperature. You can't quantify pressure. There's an agreed upon unit, which we all understand, and we can measure it. But you cannot quantify safety or success. There is no measure for that. There's an arbitrary term that we, as institutions, for example, would collectively decide to use as benchmark, which usually other institutions actually enforce, which is how they rate companies, they rate banks, they rate investments, or whatever. And this is done by a series of criteria. It's like having a bingo where you have to play and you have to adhere. So if you have 7 out of 10 things marked like that, then you get the score of whatever. And now you're allowed to get investment from this hedge fund, which, for example, states that I will not invest in any other company that is not meeting those criteria. Why? Because I myself then need to not be held liable if I invest my money poorly. So, with all this background that I said right now, as you notice, there is no vision. There is no approach as to somebody that is an expert and understands the field gets it where it needs to go. They all play the same thing that we played in school. What was the assignment? This. What do we need to do? That. Is the check mark there? Yes. Carry on. And the same way, this is how it's checked. So the supervisor, which would be middle management, upper management, whoever it is going to see, are you within the margins that I told you that you need to be? Are you applying the policies that I told you that you need to apply? Are you doing what market research dictates that we need to do? And this is the second problem. How is market research conducted? they usually use, again, similar tools. Like, for example, it's trendy to have, I don't know, two guys, a girl, a droid, an armadillo, and a horse in the game. So all the games will have that exact formula. We're gonna have fishing. We're gonna have, I don't know, two mini events, romance mechanics, a flying machine, and two maps for finding collectibles. Sure, every game is gonna have that.
So this is like right. So let's take one step back.
It's cookie cutter. It's industry, and therein lies the problem. Why? Because right now we're playing a game that is third party.
Exactly.
Applibot is making a game for Square. So Square is already a publicly traded company, and they wanted to make a side project for which other companies would bid in to get the contract. And that bid usually involves a business plan. And herein lies the problem that Applibot already have the business plan way ahead of producing that game, that this is what's gonna be produced. This is how my revenue is gonna come. This is the target audience. For example, if the target audience right in the beginning was whales, then they will not be able to pivot to something other than a whale, because this is what the business plan actually said in the beginning. Whether that business plan is correct or not, it's too late to pivot, because that's what the contract says. That's why I'm not exactly optimistic as to them changing plans. They can pivot to things that they have like 5% here or there that they can ease it or go full throttle, but they're not gonna all of a sudden become a totally different model of game, because they won't be able to, even if they wanted to.
So taking one step back, Square Enix had the vision building the world building, but they hire Applibot. Applibot is running a business plan to run the game, and the business plan clearly tell us that it's way more aimed at whales and krakens and people that are spending a lot of money. With the evidence that we have after a year plus playing the game, we have seen little change in direction. Therefore, we assume that the business plan continues as it goes, and they don't have the agility to adapt, nor they have the will to adapt to changes, because they have all these like scores to hit, which might be revenue or target or months delivering the game or whatnot. Did I get your point?
Yes, plus they have the way that they can pivot is from the market itself, because usually what they do is that they look at the market. Let's say we are mobile games. Okay, targeted at this particular demographic. All right, what's the most successful mobile game? I don't know, off the top of my head, something from Mihoyo. Okay, what do they do differently that we don't? This. All right, how can we implement a feature that will not affect our business plan? Because that feature they can justify, because it's part of the same market, and they can say that we implemented this because we saw it in our competitor. But for example, whatever you and me might have an idea for the game which is outside of that scope, even if it's clearly better, they will not be able to justify it to whoever's making the business plan.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned all your other successful games, because I was looking at the revenue charts, not only this month, but I've been looking at them for quite some time. And normally you have the same players, more or less, although now there is a new one that is called Love and Devil Space, which is really interesting, which is aimed at mostly female audience, like targeting like husbandos, like very beautiful, handsome men. The interesting part is like the community, not only the Ever Crisis community, but from what I have seen by looking at other content creators, the community is kind of like realizing that this kind of like what gacha wars of like who is the top seller is actually counterproductive, because that means it's not the best game. It's actually who is the most predatory game. So recently Genshin was the top one. And then there is this fight with Genshin. Is it a good game? Is it a bad game? I'm not going to dwell into that. But like what is obvious is that they keep exploiting those predatory mechanics where a new unit drops and is so much better than multiple previous units, to the point that in other games you need to have copies of units, and just one single copy of the new one is better than 5 or 6 copies of the previous ones. Therefore, $600 or maybe $2,000 that you spend on a unit to go to the max level is now wasted in comparison to $150 now on the newer unit, because that's the power creep. So it's very interesting that you're saying that, because I do agree that they are following a similar-ish model, where perhaps our level of power creep is not that drastic, but it's true that sometimes if you miss a key banner, for example, Bahamut Rod, or the recent one with Exploit Weakness from Tifa, or the new one with Iris, it's true that it will kind of like break your account. Like, it's totally dumping your level of power. It slows down your growth. If you miss it, it's not that bad. I mean, you miss Enfeeble, you miss Ice Enfeeble, but it doesn't seem like it's that bad as missing Bahamut Rod. So in that sense, I don't think the level of power creep, it is bad, but it's not super drastically bad, I think, in comparison to other games.
I think that not being able to tell is also part of the plan. The best way to have money sinks is if you're not entirely certain if this thing is going to be meta or not. I'll give you an example. We had a trash weapon, Yuffie's wind weapon. We used it more than actually good weapons. Why? Because the way that the events were structured,
yes,
they required it. So you were using a worse weapon objectively than other weapons that were released, because that's what this current meta needed. And not be able to tell whether a good or a bad weapon is actually the weapon that we're going to use is part of the gacha, because that's how you end up spending on everything.
Yes. So do you think the lack of visibility is part of the problem? Because we really don't know what's coming. Like, we have no clue.
The fact that we don't have a schedule, that we don't have, for example, a monthly schedule that says this is going to happen next month, or banners are hectic, or events are hectic. We don't know when we get a crash. We had banners like Cloud Sword, which lasted 8 days.
Yeah.
Things like that. I think this is part of the same. You not being able to tell what's happening, so you feel that you need to spend. It's deliberate.
Yes. So yeah, just like I'm gonna answer a few people in chat. So many questions. Thanks a lot for your comments. Chaos was saying, I wish they copied the most successful mobile games, but they don't. Most successful mobile games currently is Genshin, and Genshin is newer player friendly, which I think I kind of agree with that. 98 million profit. They did in Gacha Simulator. That's Hunter. Dennis is saying, yes, Japanese whales, but it's just messages in the Discord, so it's second-hand information. So it seems like there is like some people that are upset between Japanese whale and Krakens. We sometimes think that they are not upset, but apparently they are also upset. Hunter was asking who was the first, and Lily was saying that Genshin Impact was first, but it doesn't remember how much. Like, to be honest, like, it's normally Genshin Impact first, Love and Dead Space, then Honkai Star Rail around those lines, and then other games, and then Wuthering Waves is like 9th or 10th on that pool, which interestingly, like Reverse 1999, which is not that predatory or not that bad, is still doing really good, and it's a story game mode. So like there are ways to make mobile games without being so predatory. Then some people are asking about what is EOS and is EOS coming. So we are saying that it's not coming, but we are asking, is it coming soon? And we are debating why. And then Lily saying that roadmaps will be definitely be appreciated. And are we really heading to an EOS so soon? No, we are not heading. Well, we are thinking we are not, but we're debating why these kind of like strategies could actually lead us there based on like the paradigm that we are seeing, which we see banners every single week. All of them are limited. And it gets to a point that so many people are getting upset because you cannot catch up with the FOMO, to the point that, as Edward was saying, some banners lasted only 7 days, which is like, guys, what happened if I don't log in for a week to the game? I just missed like a costume from Cloud, actually, one of the main units, which is like insane.
To explain some things, first of all, end of service, usually, unless something goes severely wrong, never occurs before the contract is fulfilled. Now, granted, we don't know what the initial contract is.
Exactly.
The contract could be for a year. The contract could be for 5. So usually, in order for things to close prematurely, they need to seriously suck, and we are not in that position right now. We're, in fact, the fact that people have complaints shows that we are not in that position. The position where we would be on other service is when people would be indifferent because they would not be playing, period.
Absolutely.
When you're anxious about what's happening, you're actually playing. The state where you don't play, don't care, don't log in, and whatever happens, happens, is when you will get the end of service.
Yeah, in my opinion, that will happen, and it will be quite obvious as soon as like a new event drops and you go to the hardest challenge in co-op, and you cannot find
Can't
someone
find people.
in
Exactly.
in an hour, and then at that point you need to go to your friends and say, "Hey guys, can anyone help me with co-op? Because I didn't find anyone in an hour that I have been trying." At that point, it's gonna be alarming, and at that point, I think EOS soon will actually be a real thing, not only like something that we can see happening, but more like a reality that is over us, like clouds over the sky, and then rain happens.
The second thing that I wanted to say is that there are ways that they can pivot, but it doesn't mean that they can pivot right away. For example, let's say that whatever we now discuss, they internally see it. They see, for example, that there's the Discord within the community, and they don't like the new direction. Okay, now we have like 6 months to adjust. Why? Because by the time we implement this, to the time that it actually gets implemented, not only in theory, it requires work. There are two things that they can do with the existing model, as is, that I think will alleviate the community's needs. A, they could, at least from this point onward, state that anything that is limited for a year. So let's say that you have an imaginary season. It's limited for that season. Past the period of it is not longer in the season, it then enters the regular pool. So yes, it's still FOMO, but at least for people that don't want to play this as a sprint and want to play it as a marathon, and they're free to play or whatever, they can say, okay, I'm gonna play it and see where it goes. That's one thing. The second thing that they probably, I think, need to do is, especially the limited things. For example, you play the event and it gives you like 12 hours to get the limited red crystal pack for that event. This forces you to either not play, which is stupid, or just shell out a huge amount of money up front, which is equally stupid. And the reason why it's equally stupid is because you can't generate money out of nowhere. So yes, I agree that they are pushing towards whales, but whales also need to have money. We don't print money. It needs to exist. So I think that they also benchmark that, and by them just extending the time to, like, instead of 12 hours to 3 days, it's not extreme. It's still limited, but you can budget.
Yeah. So just to be sure that I understand the last point, do you mean the offers when they give you an offer, or like?
Yeah, for example, you play the event, all right, and you get for 2,000 a pack that says that you get 10 premium tickets for 2,000 red crystals.
Yes.
But you have like 12 hours to get those red crystals.
Yes.
And strange thing, I was playing this game because it's a mobile game on my way to work, and I return home after 12 hours.
Yeah.
I'm fucked.
Yeah.
I just lay down and was about to go to sleep and wanted to do that. And by the time I wake up, I already missed my chance. Or it's Saturday and I cannot go to a bank. Whatever. I'm just, just saying stuff right now.
Yeah, 100%.
That period of time is ridiculous for whatever even they themselves are trying to sell you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they might get like 2 people, but they will lose 10.
That's a point that I'm so glad that you are bringing this up, because it makes me upset that sometimes so I'm going free to play now. I'm gonna buy maybe free to play plus, as they call it. I hate the term, but anyway. So I'm gonna buy the battle pass and maybe Astro Wins if they ever drop. At least until the future. Maybe when Genesis drops, maybe I will change my mind, maybe not. I don't know. But anyhow, all I'm trying to say is like I fully agree with you because sometimes I have been buying things. So I actually wanted to spend money on the game. And then they appear with these like limited editions. And it's like, okay, I don't have fresh crystals now. But maybe I wasn't planning on buying something that is shitty in the store at this point. I was like, I still want to put like $60 or maybe $120, even 300. But it's like, dude, I just don't want to put the money now. Like you're forcing me. And then because of that, sometimes I'm not playing the story just because it's not the time of the month where I want to invest money. And it's like, it's so silly because I know that they're going to come with these really nice offers, which are way better. But then they push me not to play the game, even though I'm a whale, just so that when I play the game, I can have money. And I'm a whale and I love the game. So imagine what this will do to casual players or dolphins or maybe even newer Krakens that want to go for Tifa because Tifa is hot or whatever, or go for Cloud. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, so I fully agree. Like it's so disrupting, so predatory to have a only 12 hours. It should be, you said like 3 days. I would say at least 2 weeks. Like honestly, what's the
3 days
rush?
is fine. The reason why I mentioned 3 days is it's realistic to ask them to extend towards that period because it's still FOMO in their head, so they're still playing with you. Spend it now.
Yeah.
But it gives you the option of even if it's weekend, you can
Yeah.
go Monday on your bank, pay, and do the thing.
For example. And I would say also the thing that it messes my head is that, and I'm seeing how other games have fixed this problem, at least partially, only partially. You have premium currency and you have normal currency, which is like red crystals and blue crystals. Wuthering Waves call it astrites and whatever. Every game has their own.
Yeah,
And
it does matter.
And by playing, you can get both. You can get not in Ever Crisis, but in other games, you can actually get the premium currency ones, which is like the thing that really upsets me because let's say that I'm a free-to-play player and I want to invest in, let's say, Genesis banner whenever they drop, right? Because I love Genesis, and they only allow you to put 2,000 red crystals. Why? Like that's so. What if I want to invest all my 190k crystals in that freaking banner? Let me do this, or the 12 hours limited banners. It's like, what if I want to maybe put it like maybe ask me, let's say something ridiculous, 20k in comparison 20k blue crystal so that I can turn into 2k of the red ones, whatever crazy amount it is, but give me a way so that I can convert my time, basically respect people's time and respect people's money. And I don't think they are really respecting people's time when the only way to acquire a few things is just by paying, because then and I know we have been paying, so like it's not, the problem is not me paying. The problem is like it's unfair and it's silly.
The problem, honestly, I think that everything that we say right now is only starting from the premise that this is a whale game. So they don't consider dolphins clients.
Yeah.
From the start. So they don't want you to spend $10 weekly. They want you to spend $100 on whatever impulse buy you want to spend. Even if this would end up you spending less. Why? Not because it's better, but because this is what was dictated in the business plan. Again,
Yes.
the problem is how you got the contract, how you sold to your contractors you are going to sell this game. And I think that in order for them to pivot, it cannot happen within the same product. It's the reason why, I'll give you an example here, sorry for digressing. We have Konami's Duel Links and we have Master Duel. Both are Yu-Gi-Oh games. Both are Konami's. They're not even third parties, okay? The economy in one game is old school like ours, which is way more predatory than the other. And they didn't pivot because the way that one game was presented that it's gonna make money is different than what the other is. Unless we change the contract somehow, which involves way more paper. It's an army problem. It's that you need to overcome whatever paperwork was already established. So even for them to pivot to towards the direction that you're now saying, which might be logical because another game is doing it, that is way more work for them than just simply taking the 5% loss from it not existing there.
Yeah. So as I said, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's like we in Twitter or any social media, they tend to say the developers are shit, the developers do this and that, and ultimately is developers are just like enabling a game, but it's all about leadership and business plans. And developers are executing a plan made by the leadership and the business, whatever they are following. And in this one, it's clear that we lost the concept of like battle pass. Like battle pass in so many games is like that thing that gives you so many items that are really useful and helps the game running. It keeps the game running because everybody pays, like when World of Warcraft started, you pay a fee, a subscription fee, but in this case there is no fee because it's optional, and it keeps the game alive. What we have seen is like the battle pass gives you so almost nothing, only blue crystals, which again is the problem because blue crystals don't help you buy all those limited fancy great things. And then we have this plan that is not really making sense, even from a business point of view, as you are saying. It's not connecting the dots of like the different things that they are offering to you so that you could unlock max potential. And I think we are not suggesting a massive change in how the game is made. We are just saying, guys, like pay attention to your own game and just like make it make sense, because we don't need to change that many things. We only suggested 2 things and all of them like are easy to implement in a way.
I think that it's deliberate for it not to make sense, because if it makes sense, you can make a plan. If you can make a plan, you can budget your plan. If you can budget your plan, there is no FOMO. Now, let's do the opposite way. There is no plan, there is no sense. So suddenly, people that plan go away from the game, but impulsive buyers are attracted because they think impulsively. I like that. Let's tug. 5 pages. Why? Because I want to spend money today.
Yes,
and this is how they envision that they will get. I'm not saying it's correct or not. I'm saying that the way that the game is designed to attract those people. The problem is that they took this approach in a game which is only math. It's like this is the wrong game for this approach.
Yeah.
Because the game itself, in order for you to play it, requires for you to micromanage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're micromanaging, that means that you like to micromanage. And since you like to micromanage, then this business model is not applying to you. This is why the community is actually having an issue, because that community does not match with this business plan. This is our only problem right now. If this was my match 3 game, if this was Candy Crush or whatever, nobody would actually bat an eye. It would be fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's Final Fantasy and we count numbers and we play the battles by counting frames, by counting ATB, by counting a fuck ton of abilities or whatever, sorry for my language. But and at the same time, they are selling you things the way that you would sell, I don't know, to people that are very impulsive and just want to buy the new stuff that's there. This is a mismatch. However, that mismatch was made right from the start. So I don't know right now if they can do something about this. Like they themselves may actually even know that, and they don't know how to get out of this problem.
I think they could do something about it if they, and this is like if and only if, they could listen to a tiny bit of feedback. For example, at the beginning of the game, we didn't have any free battle, I think, if I remember correctly, in co-op, and they added 3 or 4 that you can do for free. It costs 0 stamina. And I think that was part of like the community complaining about stamina was a problem. We want free battles. So like there was a glimpse of hope there. And in this change that we are suggesting, like being able to use your blue crystal to buy red crystals, like make it like so that 2,000 is 1,000, or make a math that makes sense.
That's going to be difficult. The other one that's going to, I think that the realistic thing that they will be able to do is forget trades because this is entering financials, but them enabling, for example, the same package for more days, or them offering you more free stamina, which you already get it for free. So it's not that they're losing money. They're just like, for example, we went from 3 battles to 9 battles to get the same resources. So they can artificially increase the number of stamina that you get, and at the same time artificially increase the number of stamina that you need. But I don't think that they will address it in a meaningful way. At least, and that's where I was trying to go actually with this, and sorry for interrupting. And if the contract gets renewed and they have changes that they can implement each time they renew the contract, then we do have a hope. For example, let's say that I have a contract for 2 years or 1 year, and then they will renew for another 2 years. And when they renew, they can say, okay, we are adjusting those two things. Why? Because Game X, which is successful, did it. Not because the players are asking, but because it's proven in the market that Game X did it and it's working. Then we will see this, even the trades that you mentioned, blue to red or whatever.
Yes, I think I agree. It's all about going back to the points that we were making before. It's all about whoever is leading the project or the business and how they plan to run this project. So if they want to listen and see what is out there, for example, if they look at the gacha revenue churns, they will see that other games that are also mobile are making 10 times the money that this is making, and they could be thinking, how can we make 10 times more money? Is there anything that we can learn? And something that is quite common in the games that are loved by the community is that they run some forums where people can actually open their feedback, share their feedback. They do it in game. They don't do it in a Discord hidden tool, whatever. It's like available for everyone, so everyone can comment. I think that could go a long way, but I agree with you. That could only happen if they allow themselves the opportunity to listen, right? It's like you cannot correct someone that wants to always make the same mistakes because they think they are right.
Or because they are bound. That's
as well.
I'm offering this not because I think that it's people forget that most of the time. For example, everybody in their lifetime somehow went to school or had a job, and they were bound by the terms of that job or whatever they did in school or whatever they did in exams, or it's not that they don't see there's a better solution; it's that they cannot do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I'm not jumping the gun of them being blind to what's happening. I think especially in the day and age of the internet, and this is a mobile game, and this is a niche game, so there's a small community. How many creators are there? How many? This discussion, for example, is like logic dictates that most of the people involved with this game, be it directly or indirectly, will have access to this discussion within the first week of its release. So I don't think it's a problem of them getting ideas. I think it's a problem of them having or not options to implement those ideas. And also, another thing that we need to address. Say you're working for a company, and whatever it is that you want to do outside of what is agreed upon involves a risk of you doing it, but it not going the way that it needs to go. Are you going to take the fall for it? Because if you do what was agreed upon, which is bad, you have the excuse that I did what was agreed upon. It's bad, but this is what's written here. Now, if you do something which is better, but it's not agreed upon, and for some reason it backfires, then all of a sudden it's on you. Because you decided to do that change. And this is one of the reasons why, especially the bigger the company, the less the risk involved. And you see them just heading straight towards, the same cliff. Because this is what's written there.
It's inevitable, like Thanos used to say. I want to read like some comments that I really like. I like all the comments, but these ones were adding a lot of context. Hunter was saying, Ever Crisis got a profit increase, prepare for more limit break stuff. That was really funny. Lily said, most other gacha games have the $5 pass that gives in-game currency daily. So that could also bolster intake. I really like that one because something that I have seen in Honkai Star Rail, I think Genshin does this, Wuthering Waves, whatever. That you can buy these like daily passes, and so then as long as you log in, you will get some premium currency, like really a small amount of that, and that's really good because if you don't log in, you lose it, and you can accumulate those bonuses. You can have like 165 days, 300 days. Normally there is a cap, but that's really, really good. It's still like pushing people to pay, but it's kind of like more friendly payers than what we are seeing. Then Pali was saying this game will last until the last part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake is live. Once that's done, I think they will abandon this project, which is like a feeling that we have read also on other people chatting and yourself as well. It seems that the direction is keep it alive until the third of Final Fantasy VII, the third part, the last part, is out there, and then we will see what happens. Hunter was saying that Genshin now is at 99 million per month. And then Dietlit was saying, one thing that has always backed me, at the beginning it was a stamina point every 5 minutes, people complaining. So they changed it to 2 minutes, but they kept the cap the exact same. So we went from having 12 hours to cap down to 5 hours until cap, which is ridiculously low. Another point on the stamina, now that we're saying this, something extremely useful that I have seen, again, in other games, and it's apparently easy to implement, well, in theory, is you have your normal increase of stamina until, let's say, whatever your cap is, and then you have a reserve, which is a different stamina that replenishes way slower, and you can accumulate a lot. So if you are gone for a week or two, the game helps you catch up, which is fantastic. So then you can catch up on, let's say, a week of content, but maybe not 2 weeks or 3 weeks because you have stamina, which is really good. Like I really don't like how the game is not really helping players. It's just it's pushing players away, and it's like, oh, we don't care, which is like what frustrates me because I care.
Of all the things that you mentioned, I think that one safely can deduct that they just took existing mechanics, just put them in, and then didn't care.
Exactly.
It's like, this is what the market has, let's put them in and that's it. And until somebody complains specifically, for example, when they tripled the stamina that we get, that was because of a massive complaint in the beginning of the game where they themselves called an MAA and asked about that. But what they did, notice, they gave you more stamina, 3 times more stamina. But all of a sudden, you have 3 times more battles that you need to participate and spend that stamina. In essence, you got exactly the same amount of stamina that you previously got.
Is the illusion of progress.
It doesn't matter if the number is 6, 9, or 17. It's you need to see how it compares to where you spend it on.
Yeah, it's that illusion of progress. Well, for me, what I really dislike is, independently of their games, what I dislike is when they are clearly not helping players to come back into the game. Let's say that you step away for a week because you're tired of this menu navigator, or you're tired of seeing Sid because you don't like Sid or whatever, and you just want to see Tifa, Aerith, and Whoops or whatever. And then it's not really helping players to come back into the game because stamina comes and goes, and then once you run out of it, then that's it.
Here's a thought. And we run this experiment, and I can confirm this thought. Because the game is extremely stringy after the honeymoon period of your new account, it's actually more efficient if you quit to make a new account.
Insane.
When you make a new account, you get a fuck ton of crystals that you can use for the new weapons, and you have hindsight 2020 of the old ones. So you will get exactly those that you actually require. So what happens is that if you do this every 3 to 6 months and you're free to play, you're actually going to have a better account than if you just come and go and try your best. Because the economy of the game is stupid.
Because someone looking at the metrics is way more keen on seeing new players, metric, check, done,
Exactly.
rather than
So if I
seeing...
make 5 accounts, I have now 5 people joining the game. It doesn't matter if it's me and my 5 clones.
Exactly.
It's still 5 new accounts. So that's why I think that not all the things that are there are meant for the players to actually enjoy a good game experience. They're meant for marketing to boost their sales, or for whatever division decides that by them having more accounts matters more. Why? Because another benchmark, here comes the previous discussion about the hedge funds, might say that I need a minimum of 2,000 accounts per month, new accounts to be activated. You don't know that. We don't have that papers in front of us to see what they actually have as quotas and why they do stupid stuff like that. But I think that's the reason why they don't offer you anything if you just quit and just start again with your old account.
Yeah, I agree. Which, by the way, speaking of data, I can see minus 6% of players in January, which is kind of like decent in comparison to other months. We have seen sometimes months where we have lost 36%. I think the key reason was in January there was this release of the one of the most broken banners that I have seen ever, which was Tifa and Aerith both together. It's like super. First of all, super hot, then super useful. Exploit weakness plus the weapon from Aerith that was magic attack up to all allies, plus magic defense down to all enemies, plus magic attack, R ability, all super useful. So I think that helped, not reducing players. But it's sad to see that happened when power creep is at play, because if you miss that banner, your account will suffer a tiny bit or a lot, depending on how magical you are or physical, on how much developed your Tifa and your Aerith is, which is like sad to see.
Which again, let's sit on the developer's chair now. So don't miss it.
Exactly. And also
See?
maybe we should do another limited banner. So it's now Tifa and Red 13, and let's compare that with Tifa and Aerith and see which one is ranking better. To see like...
Notice that they did this 2 times in a row. For example, we had the crossover with Remake, and now we have the crossover with Rebirth.
Yeah.
At the time of release of Rebirth. They know that they will have less people playing the game now because many people are gonna be playing Rebirth on PC. So because they know that, they want incidental, which is, I might as well enjoy. See how this works. Let me make a new account real quick. So it's for them. This is why the weapons that we saw in the crossover, they are not like the ones with Tifa and Aerith in the previous banner.
Yes, and by the way, I have to say, that's the only thing I could ever like about weekly banners, which is like, I think I have said this many times, and it's a controversial opinion, but if they release weapons and outfits weekly that are like just adding new things that are not groundbreaking, yet they're just evening out the playing field. Let's say 1 week we release 900% magical ice damage plus 1.2 extra when the buff is applied. And then the week after we release 900% physical ice damage. And the only difference is one was physical, one was magical. I will be really happy because then the game is not changing that much. It's just providing options, which is like one thing that I think could perhaps be good if this crossover is not like that game changer. That is
the problem with that is that it's gonna plateau whales this way, because the way that they do it, and this is why they now can sell bad weapons. For example, we got Yuffie's bell because we didn't have any magical wind option.
Yeah.
Now, if we had magical wind option, then it wouldn't cut it. So what they do is that if you notice, they have always something missing and covering for it.
Of course.
So that they literally want the opposite of options. They want lack of options for whatever is coming, so that you are forced to get the new thing that is coming.
But the good thing is, like, so I fully agree with what you're saying. And the good thing is that if they were connecting the dots better, the dots of their own game, they will realize, oh, we are missing more physical, let's say, Earth options. And then let's release one banner of Earth physical, let's release some events for that. And then that's it, we are sorted. But they are themselves, they are not always connecting the dots. And it's a bit random.
I don't think it's random. I think it's already designed. This is when remember when I said that this game was ready and it was doled out?
Yeah.
I am almost certain this is what happened. It's like, for example, they have a year worth of weapons, a year worth of characters, and a year worth of battles. All right, let's dole it out. Okay, that knife that doles it out is not perfect. So this is why you see sometimes that it's not doled in a way that is convenient. But I think it's already designed. And this is why you see sometimes it hits, sometimes it misses, because it wasn't it's not designed month by month. It's designed, I don't know, a year ahead. And they actually said that at some point, I think.
I think you're right. I think I heard them saying that. What I think is like they are changing tiny things on their plan depending on the data that they see. For example, I don't think it's a coincidence that we are seeing so many Iris banners lately. I think it was planned to release more for her, but I think based on the numbers, they are realizing, okay, we need to continue adding her to make sure we don't lose track on the other numbers that we care about.
I think that there's another problem that is also apparent in companies, is that you have divisions clashing. You have marketing, you have the people that develop, you have the people that want to appease investors, which would be different than the people that want to market the game to you, because they are doing business to business, and the other team is doing business to consumer. And each of those divisions usually try to cannibalize on the other. So if my team looks best and your team looks slightly worse, if things go south, I can blame your team because we did it best. People are petty in those jobs, and you see that happen. So
which is true in multiple jobs. Like it's like company politics are a reality in many companies, and politics are always at play. And sometimes there is a level of like the customers are impacted by that, even though we don't see it clearly. We don't see who made the action, but we see the outcome of that action.
And the biggest problem, I think, is that people need to realize that the product isn't the product. The product is the byproduct. The product is the contract, is to get the funding. The fact that there's going to be a product released to consumers is a byproduct of the actual product of us getting funding. That's where the business is. So this is why products succeed or fail incidentally.
Yeah.
And that once we understand that the actual product is only what is left over, then we will realize why there's so much of a hit and miss between what the community wants and what the company delivers. I don't think that this is going to change anytime soon. I think that it's on us to enjoy the game with whatever is offered. I don't think we have a year and a half now, somewhere like that. I think it's almost a year and a half of this game. The way that the game goes is exactly the same. The only thing that changed is the gear on which it tries to be greedy. And as Chaos pointed out, and as you pointed out, we don't have an influx of new players. We have an influx of fake new players with fake new accounts.
Yeah.
So they know. It's not difficult to know that information.
I also think that that's one of the biggest flaws in the game. Not only that new players are coming or not coming, it's like it's such a steep hill to try to catch up with the game, to try to do something in a co-op event or ranking event. When you're a new player, you are totally lost, and there are not many pointers or hints that could help you feel a sense of progress. You feel a sense of progress because you're leveling up, getting a lot of stamina and whatnot. You're completing the story, but then after the 2 weeks mark has passed, you're kind of like in a massive gap that will
Mhm.
take 6 months to catch up because you don't have the crystals to pull, you don't have the weapons, you don't have anything. So you're like in a 6 month grind just because you have the will to grind on a Ever Crisis on a Final Fantasy game, which some of us have because we come from that background of like I love grinding because I love RPGs and I love being present. So that's the target audience. But they could do way better if they help us with like some mini games or something that
Yeah,
could actually help while you are growing your account.
that's a good point. Actually, I think that the game, the we mentioned it in the previous podcast, but I think that this needs to be addressed. Is that us having games within the game
Yeah.
would help in that situation. For example, say you're frustrated about banners, you don't want to pull anymore. I don't know, you have an issue with the latest ranking and you sucked, and you want to take a break. Instead of taking a break in another game, you can take a break in another game in the game.
Absolutely.
Play something fun.
As far as I know,
Play some collectibles, I don't know, do something.
yes, absolutely. As far as I know, Genshin even has their own TCG inside the game, and Genshin
Mm.
even has housing and things like that. I'm not saying let's do housing if, in Ever Crisis, but we have the Queen's Blood game. We have so many mini games that we could play. Maybe like Chocobo Racing, or maybe something Chocobo Breeding, maybe whatever you name it. Whatever idea it is, it will be very useful because, like, right now, the only game is waiting for the high wind, or waiting for the chocobos, or waiting for the stamina. And then, okay, with the stamina, you can play, but all the rest are just waiting. And
Mhm.
realistically, especially for new players, you want to give them action. So the dopamine is high all the time, and they are excited about sharing that game with friends. Imagine if you could play, if the two of us could play right now, Chocobo Racing, the two of us with four more people, 6 people in total. It will be so much fun. The game will start like being shared across like communities because it will be like, hey, download the game because we can play together Chocobo Racing. Ignore the gacha, we can play Chocobos. Or ignore the gacha, we can play cards. It will be so much fun. It will be so much better. And then on top of that, there is the game that is still being developed, which is like these challenges, this PvP, this ranking. But it will attract a more variety of players, and I think that's exactly what it needs.
If provided they want more players.
Exactly.
Because, counterpoint, let's say that they are operating on a very strict budget, on a very strict server, even them getting the second one for the anti cheat being optional, which is why it's a potato server. And they just want a niche game with a niche clientele, which is stable. And they don't want to expand because if they expand, they need to justify more expenses and they have more things that could go south. And now imagine, which is why I said that this is a third party company taking a contract, them not wanting this hustle, and the only bet that they have each month is, do whales pay less or more? If that's the only benchmark for which they are getting paid to maintain, then this is the only benchmark they will maintain. And every Chocobo game or card game or whatever, which we may like, would actually go against that benchmark. Because, like you said, forget gacha, let's play Chocobos. If that happens, that means that the guy that wants to sell the extra banner now needs to do double shift to, I don't know, somehow attract people to spend.
And the funny thing is that if they were actually connecting the dots, they will find a way to say, we give you 100 weapon parts from Seed, and also a new skin for your Chocobo Racing, and also we give you 2 random cards for Blood Queens, so that you have 3 options now to play inside the same game. You are paying. Maybe we have increased the price in $20, so people that want to play the weapon part collector side, they will still pay for that. You can still they have the tools to connect the dots and make everyone happy, but that requires, as you were saying before, it requires thinking and it requires changing the business plan to a point that is a bit more agile, which is
And it requires teams.
exactly.
Here's another problem. Say that you and 5 other people are making the combat of Ever Crisis, and you get paid, and your monthly quota is made by you doing those battles. And all of a sudden, you now have Chocobo Racing, and another team, other than your team, is now developing Chocobo Racing. And next month, Chocobo Racing is more popular than the battles you designed. Now, all of a sudden, you have a problem in your job because another team that wasn't there previously did something better. Like I said, companies are petty. People are petty that work there. They don't want to involve more competition in whatever it is that they are doing. So we might see it in a naive way of would be nice or not, but within the company, I think that if to them this is something that is working, it's within the numbers that they expect. And like you said, they want to ride this train up until remake ends. Okay? I'm not steering the pot. I'm doing exactly the same thing. I'm just adjusting 5% upwards or downwards depending on the money that I get.
Yeah. So I think
the hard capital, the hard facts of capitalism usually clash with whatever dreams of creativity players might want to see in the game.
I think we arrived to the same challenge that if leadership was different because they were following a different business plan, options could appear in the table, but it's really hard to see those because even having 2 different teams competing in the same company with good leadership, it could be seen as a healthy thing. It could be seen as a healthy way to attract new players and new talent, but that requires
project.
Yeah, but that requires a mindset change, which is the thing that is really hard to see.
I think that this is the biggest problem, that it isn't the main project. It's a side project on a third-party company. So them playing it safe there is the most liked scenario.
Yeah, the classic thing when you hire contractors, they will play safe to get the cash and live their lives.
Exactly. That is, I think that Ever Crisis suffers from exactly that. That whoever designed it clearly designed a good game, probably a better game that they even themselves expected for what's the game is. But everything else is just barely functional for a third-party game.
Which it's funny that you said that because I fully agree. Like, I think the game is way better than we give them credit in general. Like, I have seen people. I don't see people chatting enough about how good the game is. Like, we have said, like, we have talked a lot about there is like a doom day coming at some point. There are like so many challenges with how the direction is set. But once you stop for a second to play manual, once you set up your units and there is a mini strategy game of building your team, which is like one game inside the game. Then after that you start playing, and then there is a super smart game, smart and dynamic as well, on like how you manage your ATB, how you get the most out of your team. And I think that's very positive to the point that I think now we are in the best moment on the game overall because we have so many good options. Independently if you are Whale or Kraken. If you are Whale, you have way, way, way more options, which is like the problem that we have been covering before, and we have suggested a few ways to address that. But even being free to play, you can see how the game is starting to offer options. And I think that's something super positive that I don't think we are chatting enough. So let's discuss, what do you think has changed? Like, we have been here for like a year, and 6 months almost. I think it's in March when it's the half anniversary, a year and a half. What have you seen changing that you really like more now, and what would you like to see perhaps?
I genuinely think that the game is at the best state so far. So it's only going upwards so far in terms of gameplay, in terms of offering you things to do in combat.
And what do you think then?
Because we had, like, for example, only DPS and healer. Now we have a tank. We had support which was pretty basic, like lower the defense, poke holes, raise your defense, and that's it. Now we have Enfeeble, we have Imperil, we have indirect things like Tifa's weapon. We have many other ways of applying more pressure. We have abilities like Stop. We have the Sigil Breaking, which result in other abilities triggering. We have ultimate weapons. We have limit breaks that now have utility inside them. Things like what you said previously, like when we charge, for example, the max stance, the command stance. Some weapons do that as well. So more and more things are added, which add to the complexity of the game, and at the same time, the gameplay remains the same. It is not becoming a different game. It's the same game, only better. There are flaws in how they are implemented, but I think they are mostly how they are coded, not the idea. The idea is really good. For example, when you have to press like 6 or 7 times to activate the ultimate because the character is doing an attack animation, that's stupid. That needs to be fixed. But the fact that we have this option is better than we didn't have this option at all.
Yes, I agree completely. And I like Tony's point. He was saying that one of the reasons that Rebirth is better than it is better than Rebirth, sorry, is because it's a real ATB game. And also ATB management is way more important now. Lucas and Chaos are debating with Ramon about why is Square Enix accountable for the quality of the game? Yes, no. Focusing on what is positive, I really like ATB management. The first time that I saw plus ATB, I was like, wow, I never thought this was gonna come. It just blew my mind. I thought haste was coming, which was like, yeah, you just feel it faster. But the moment we started like giving, you get 3 ATB and you get 3 ATB, that was like insane because like it really changes the moment that you use it. If you use it at the very end when you have almost full bar, you just wasted one of the most powerful things that you have. If you use it at the very beginning, you just multiply by 2 the amount of attacks that you can do. But at the same time, you need to take into consideration, are we playing with units that has fast animations or that has slow animations? How long it's gonna take to fill the bar? And those kind of thinking, like the game awareness is becoming more and more important, which is what I really like, because then it's rewarding, finally, rewarding expertise and rewarding people playing the game, which is what I'm excited about. Playing manual, playing the game, giving us more options, which is like, going back to the point, it's the only reason why I'm excited about weekly banner options, playing the game more, like playing the game with different things. So yeah, I think the game has improved. For me, the biggest win, which is silly, and I think they need to double down on this one, is fixing finally the power, how do they call it? Overboost? Yeah, I think that's the word. Overboosting weapons and so on and so forth. Finally, we can do it in one shot. I think we need more of those things so that it's way easier to navigate the menus, because sometimes menus are dreadful. Like, it's just so many menus.
I agree that they're a bit of it's archaic in how they sort. But again, devil's advocate, I think it's also deliberate.
Yes.
The more time you spend in doing this, the more you are inclined on going the route of get the new one. It's stupid, but it is what it is.
But I think a simple thing, well, simple. I say simple, but something like, let me do all my premium quests in one go, it could really go a long way. And and they have done it for the other quests and for the other ways of spending stamina. And there are small things that will respect people time more while still keeping the menu navigation and keeping the look and feel, and it will just be so much better.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Little things will help, like, for example, those one per day that we have, which they accumulate. When you have 4 events running, and each of them have 1 or 2 battles, which are one per day, it's really tiring to go and do them one by one. On the other hand, is what they sell. Is how they sell content. Or at least they present that they have content. But to keep that still on the positive, I don't mind the menu hustle as long as there is content that is actually meaningful to play. If of the two things that they would correct is the menus or the at the expense of the content, or the content at the expense of the menus, I'm okay with shitty menus.
Yeah. Also, like, I guess it might be different teams, or who knows. But I also think, on another positive note, when Angel dropped, oh my god, the story was super. I mean, without the spoiler, no spoilers, but like the idea of the story of like seeing animations, like if it was like a real console game or PC game, that was for me huge. Like seeing Joan Angel, Joan Sephiroth talking in the helicopter about whatever, and then seeing new units, seeing new pieces of the lore being dropped. I think that has so much potential. And I can't wait for the next episode. It's one of the reasons why I'm saying to friends that I know they love the saga, and I'm saying, guys, you should check this out because the story is really easy. You don't need to play every day, and you're gonna actually enjoy to discover who is Sephiroth, because we don't really know in a way like who he was.
I'm gonna be on the more conservative part here. I don't like the bloated story because I think that the story is kind of all over the place right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is because the story is directionless. They all have ideas. They all bring ideas to the table. Each of them implement those ideas, but there is no one defining voice within the Final Fantasy VII universe that says this goes, this does not. We don't have a central direction here. So what this means is that we get a lot of stories, but none of them are of substance. For example, you played what you played. You saw the story that you saw. Let's say that you didn't. What actually changed in the background of the character that you envisioned? Nothing.
Well, no, I not in Angel. Angel for me is the same, but I really like seeing glimpse of Sephiroth past and how he interacts with people back then, and his attitude. I like those little things. It doesn't change much. I agree with that. Like I can survive, but I think that's why spin-offs are sometimes good or sometimes bad or sometimes just meh. I think this one is neither good or meh for me. It's between. But it could have the potential to add something new and refreshing, perhaps, especially like I can't wait to see more of the people surrounding Sephiroth, and why, like, tell me more of like those, yeah, those things.
I don't. I agree with you on the premise of what you say. I just don't think that, in particular, the people behind this game are very talented for that. There lies the problem. Is that they are approaching it in a shallow way, and as a result, it doesn't add to the character. It just drags the same theme over 5 or 6 scenes. So we didn't learn something different from Sephiroth in terms of character development. We just saw more interaction of the same character development that we already had.
Yeah, I agree with that. But while I agree with that, I like what I'm seeing, and I'm just hopeful that they're gonna continue adding more stuff. And also, like, I'm excited about the other people that I never met before, the photographer and whatnot. And I'm excited, because it's adding to the lore of the game. And it's true that it's not gonna be really deep, or like it's not gonna be like something that will make me change my life, but I think it has potential, and the fact that it's only coming in Ever Crisis as a mobile game, we don't have this story anywhere else. So I think that's a positive thing, and I wonder, in the same way that they poorly introduced Glenn in Rebirth, I wonder if they are going to introduce the new you people in the last one poorly or
Well, they will.
better.
The way that the story is played, without spoilers, because
Yeah.
they will definitely will. And speaking of Rebirth, for example, they also do the same shallow approach there. But there are, if there is a bright example that actually for me did the character better, which is Rufus. Of all the people that they presented, Rufus actually was presented more.
And to be clear, you're talking about Rebirth or Ever Crisis?
Rebirth, because in Ever Crisis we just see the same Rufus. Nothing changed there. In Ever Crisis, for me, I'm not very fond of how the story is presented, because the original story is abridged. Okay, Crisis Core is still Crisis Core, but the new story for me pales in comparison to the existing ones.
So would you say the problem is with the story?
Direction.
So,
Direction.
but direction in because it could be okay. Direction is one thing, but do you think it's the story that is bland or the storytelling? Because or both.
The storytelling, because it's direction. The problem that we have right now is that Toriyama can't direct. Whatever he's done so far is unwatchable. Final Fantasy 13, whatever positives it has, was robbed of those positives on how the game was presented and directed. And then we have just memes upon memes upon memes on what he did, for example, with Final Fantasy X-2. And he's doing the same thing with Ever Crisis, because, by the way, he's the director of Ever Crisis. Is that he cannot present a serious story. Once you get the story to start being a little bit more serious, then he says something silly in there just to lighten the mood. I don't know. I think that this guy just can't take this whole thing into show me a dramatic moment and just stay there.
It's
This is why, for example, you mentioned the photographer. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I want to see those people that I know interact, and I don't care about a random photographer there using a gimmick joke. He turns everything into a joke.
It was the same. It was the same critic that they were giving to this director of the last Thor movie.
Yes, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
That's why I can't stand his movies. It's like when you're watching something and it's about to get serious. No, let's insert a joke there. Let's lighten the mood. It's like you can't take this thing seriously anymore.
Who was this guy?
Taika.
Taika. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Where in the last one, I remember there was the oh my god, the bad guy is Love and Thunder. I'm gonna quickly check. Taika Waititi and Christian Bale. Yes, so Christian Bale plays the bad guy, and he wasn't told how the whole thing was gonna connect, right? And then he is performing like it's a freaking drama. It's like a movie out of the nowhere. And then the other guys are performing like it's a teenager movie, and then all of a sudden some fun thing is like a goat will appear or whatever, and and I can see that it's the same curse, which is like, please, Thor can be silly, and he can have silly moments, but like it doesn't all need to be silly when there is like a dramatic scene
Yes,
happening
read
at the
the
scene.
room. Read the room. It's the same problem. By the way, Rebirth does it the same way. You have a serious scene, and you want to take in the serious scene, and just when the serious scene is playing out, let's insert a joke. Remember the Dine example that I mentioned previously? For example, you see a dramatic scene of a character that didn't open up, and now it finally opens up, and you see this drama, and all of a sudden you insert the joke character there just to, I don't know, lighten the mood.
Yeah, which is
He does the story in Ever Crisis when you see the first soldier story with Sephiroth. He does it all the time. There's like 5 minutes of story material and then jokes.
yeah, and the thing that they will never do is that if they could justify that saying I was freaking out and I was so nervous that I was saying the most shit random things that came to my mind when I met Sephiroth, I don't even remember what I said. It will make so much sense, right? It will give a context to this guy being stupid, but they will never do
Doing
that.
one also. For example, that's the other problem with Toriyama. Is not only that he's joking all the time, is that he's rehashing the same joke. For example, they supposedly tried to deepen some characters in Rebirth, like Yuffie, which was annoying.
She is.
And they tried to do something better with this character. And then what they did is that they took the same joke, and we saw the same joke with the same character like 7 times in a row. And it's like, okay, we got it. Stop it now. Why are you doing this again? And I think that it's he has so much need to make this into a meme that we sometimes forget the seriousness of it. And yes, it's a trend that we saw in Hollywood. What you said about Taika Waititi is actually true, and he's not the only one doing that. I think that the whole thing started by some people being talented at doing that correctly,
Yeah.
and they just copy that and don't know how to do it.
Yeah, like in a way, Marvel movies they have always tried a little bit of like laugh at themselves. Like I remember Hulk punching Thor, and people were laughing at like, "Oh my god, this is happening," and it was like a moment where I
One
was,
moment,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly,
It's one moment, one scene, carry on.
yeah,
Now, if we saw the same punch 5 times in the same movie, in the same way, at some point it wouldn't be a joke anymore.
yeah. It's almost like it's this kind of like meme culture, like movies performing for the meme more than movies performing for the cohesiveness of the story, and then leading to like moments where it's like, but what is happening?
Well, in case of Toriyama, and this is why I mentioned that this is a special case, just as like with YDT that you mentioned before, I think that this is genuine. Is that those people just can't take this thing seriously. It's how they think. Because everything that he's done has the same mood. You play Final Fantasy X too. You have like 5 serious scenes and everything else is just a joke. You play 13. You are in the moment where you have the big reveal. You have dialogues like shooting kids in one of them with Saz. And after that scene, you get a meme. Because this guy can help himself. It's how he writes. It's how he directs.
Yeah, you can see that so many people cannot change their own way of creating art. Let's say it happens as well in like some animes or some like things where you see like always like a silly character in an anime, and you are trying to convince your friend that they don't know anything about anime to watch anime, and all of a sudden the silliness happen, or the in animes is maybe it's not silliness, but it's like sexual content or something like that that it totally breaks the mood. It's like, but why are we seeing this like pervert moment when we were just fighting like this mega boss? And it's just how people great art sometimes, and you cannot help it. But it's totally rottens the product. It makes the product worse.
A fine example for me is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I liked Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I like the story. The story is better because it's the actual story. I like the presentation, but there was way too much chibi jokes every 5 minutes. Like, go on. I get it. Go on.
I watched it ages ago, so I don't remember. But I have really fond memories of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It was like such a great show.
And I think that it's very difficult to maintain balance. Not many directors manage to do that and actually stay within the source material correctly. Toriyama isn't one of them. Toriyama, I think, is a problem for Final Fantasy. He, if given a game that is more light-hearted in nature, maybe he would shine.
Yeah.
But especially for the Final Fantasy VII universe, which is doom and gloom,
I think time will prove how naive I was, but I'm still hopeful that we're gonna see some fun moments of the people not fun in the silly fun, but like interesting moments of the people surrounding Sephiroth. Let's see how it goes. Talking about what's coming next, we have a Barret banner coming up and Yuffie. Are you gonna pull on any of those? What's your feeling?
right now I'm waiting. I have an issue with cash at this point because the game is really, really, really greedy in how much money it has. I am at the position where I have to pick and choose. I am still a whale, and the moment I stop being a whale, it's probably the moment I will stop playing the game.
Oh wow.
So, because for me, when you play those games, I want to go big
Or go home.
go home. But I want to judge what's coming and to allocate my budget accordingly. Right now, nothing is needed. If you have the Iris banner or if you don't have the Iris banner, there is no content for it. And there's no content for it for the foreseeable future in the next week as well. So once we see events and we have a plan, probably around guild fight, probably around another crash or whatever ranking that is gonna come, then we'll decide. But for me, it's not a matter of if I'm gonna pull, it's how much. Usually, what I do is I pull until the gear. For example, on Glenn, if you notice in this guild fight, I didn't use Glenn because I only had like one copy of his weapon, and I pulled until the gear because I want the gear, and I know that the weapon. For example, with Cloud, I did the same. The 8 months banner, I pulled until the gear. Now this weapon is OP10 from all the tickets.
Yeah.
So, okay, I didn't use him to fight Titan the first week with Cloud. I fought him with Yuffie and Aerith. Sure. I don't care. It's the same thing here.
I think Barret is going to be really useful in guild fights stage 4 and 5 because that boost is gonna really help us survive the next
I
attacks.
want to see the weapon. I like the ultimate, but I want to see the actual weapon that comes along with it. Because I think that the ultimate is only telling half of the story here.
Yeah.
And I'm fairly certain, because Barret is not a character that's going to get a lot of love. No boobs. That the more generic the gear is, like Electro Armor, for example, the better it is for the character.
100%.
I don't want to see a random element there.
Yeah, same. By the way, I really like this comment from Beefist that was saying, imagine making a game around a terrorist organization while simultaneously thinking that Thief Cigarette needed censorship. Make it make sense.
Yeah, remember the initial discussion where I was talking about publicly traded companies?
Yeah.
Okay, market research says because this needs to be PG-13 or whatever, cigarettes are not allowed to be shown in there, and that's the rule. Otherwise, we don't get an investment.
Yeah, it's interesting how times are changing. I was like, I don't know, like Sid was a smoker, so like just I don't know.
Yeah, for me, this character needs to have a cigarette at all times on him. The pack here, swearing a lot. and being who he is. That's who Sid is.
Yeah,
This is a nerf. I don't know, the Sid 2. Sid's younger brother.
exactly.
No.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So speaking of the new banners, I think Barret is gonna be really broken. Not broken. It's gonna be really useful. I think Yuffie is also gonna be really useful because Yuffie is like loved by so many people, especially in
For
Japan.
me, since you mention it, for example, Yuffie, because Yuffie's in the game, if you notice, she's kind of niche. She's DPS and a semi-secondary support,
Yeah, but
but she does not excel in her own kit. She excels in her ultimate.
her
It's
ultimate.
the ultimate that is good. Her weapons are here and there, but the ultimate is what makes this character right now.
Yeah, like not only is the 780B, which is the least important thing actually, is the physical defense down, magic defense down, that can add so much to your party.
And the initial ATB.
The initial TV as well, which is
The
crazy.
initial ATB is what makes the weapon because you don't have to do anything. You just start with an advantage. And by the way, this is another reason why I hated the bell. The bell had an animation which is similar to Sephiroth, which takes forever. So when you get 780B, but 4 of them is wasted by watching the animation, with a new ice weapon, for example, now that we used Yuffie on the event and we had the conformer, for the ice weapon, this worked much better. So for Yuffie, to be honest, the only thing that I'm hoping is to see a weapon with a fast animation.
Yeah.
If we also get a 380B weapon on Yuffie, and you have the conformer and it's actually useful, then you have way better allocation of your ADB. We'll see.
We will see. It's gonna be exciting. Anything else that you think we should cover before we park the podcast season episode 2?
Let's return back to the original 3 questions: power creep, state of the game, and our positive or negative thoughts in the end. I think that power creep is actually not that much considering. It's not exactly power creep, it's meta. The game is way more meta heavy at this point. Because we have so many abilities and they design bosses around abilities. So you might get a weapon which is actually worse than the weapons that you already have, but it's tailor made for that boss. So I don't think that we are entering power creep territory. We are entering way more. When you had one weapon that was subpar but kind of working, now it isn't working anymore, period, because the mechanics of the boss require, for example, 3 different debuffs, 1 buff, 3 ADB for that, and that sigil break. For example, many people dismissed in the new weapon with Aerith and said, it's similar to the other weapons. Yes, but this weapon has a circle sigil.
Circle sigil breaks, yeah.
Break sigil. Mark my words, the next boss is going to require it, and this is the reason why this weapon is going to shine.
Even the one that just passed, Stilva, it was requiring cross or circle, and you could still buy the weapon and use it.
Exactly. My point is, those little differences, it's not that the weapon is now better or more powerful in terms of power creep, is that it incidentally has an ability that we will actually need on the upcoming fight. So I think that the game is trying to go that way instead of power creep.
Yeah, I agree. It's been the trend, although I'm happy to see that we have cap at the 900-ish% when it comes to elemental weapons, and non-elemental is a bit higher, 1,000-something, with the extra 1.2.
Notice our stats,
Sorry?
for example. Notice our stats. We are right now at 15, 16k
Yes.
attack or characters.
Yeah, thanks to the physical attack all and magic attack all or attack all and so on and so forth, high win and so on and so forth.
Iwan is already at 47-ish to 50% on whales.
Which is why I think high win is always the best investment, because it will last forever. independently
And
of.
it's the worst investment for gacha. I think that of all the things that they chose, by the way, speaking of the state of the game, the fact that you patiently wait on a random event to occur, the bomb, which you cannot do anything about. You're not paying money for it, it just stays there. And just hoping for good RNG. It's the exact opposite of what you do in the gacha game. So I don't like this feature the way that it's passive.
I don't mind that it's passive. I mind that it's so random that you cannot. It's a gacha inside the gacha, right? Same with materia.
Yes, but without money, without gacha. That's
Yes.
the thing. It's you might get a bomb. Okay. What? How can I control this? You can't. But I got 3 bombs and the other guy got 0.
Yeah.
Yeah. What can you do about it? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. And then going to the last question, EOS soon. We said not really,
No. No.
not happening.
My honest prediction is that at least until the 2027, where we have the 30-year anniversary, and we most likely will get part 3, and a year after that. So for me, this game is going to have a 5-year cycle of basically existing, even if it goes on negative numbers.
Yeah, for me, I think the same, and also I think that if they will listen and they will have some ability to adapt and listen to feedback, they could do so much without changing many things, as we have discussed, like extending the duration of like the limited buy now things and changing little things here and there. Not even seasons.
The most important seasons.
Yeah.
Extend duration, like you said. Offer cut 5% from whales and put it to dolphins. The same 5%. What you said, some little things that will help dolphins pay and alleviate the fatigue, the wallet fatigue
Exactly.
on whales.
Exactly.
Both will pay this way. And the other reason why, even if the game will end, I don't see an actual end of service, is that I firmly believe that this game is way too good and complicated for it just to die. And it has the Final Fantasy VII name, and it actually, if you notice, the more and more the game is developed, we get Final Fantasy VII in it, albeit in doses.
Yes.
I think that at some point, when the game will end, you will have a remaster of Final Fantasy VII, the original one, with this engine, and whatever was developed for Ever Crisis, like in a 5-year span. It's there. They can resell the game, literally. So them getting the funds for that game as a gacha before that game is released. So I don't think that the game itself is gonna disappear.
Yeah, I agree. And I also hope that, honestly, I hope that they will listen to do really small tweaks. For example, like bringing again the tower that they introduced in the anniversary, the Brutal Tower, or however that was called, so that we can have chances to still complete previous crash fights. Because I'm in a point where I honestly don't care about the icons or whatever, because we don't have the leaderboard. The thing I have been complaining since day one.
That's the thing that they need to add.
They really need to add a leaderboard so that we remember who was the first one and who was the second and who was X. If they do that, it will change the game massively. But if they could also do the tower again, so that I could fight Stilba now. I know the crash is finished, but I still want to fight that boss. What if I want to practice? What if I want to see how much my account has improved? I think they need to add that to the game, and it will change. It will make the game so much better. And I don't need the rewards. I just need to challenge myself.
This is where the seasons come in. I think that if the game implement more of a season concept, so say that within a season you have 12 guild fights, a tower, 12 crashes, 6 dungeons, whatever.
Yeah.
Season ends. We come to the second season. Right. Whatever was available in the previous season, now for no rewards, just for play. Make it available so that we have an archive of that fight
Yeah,
and we can fight it.
exactly. That's it. Yeah, and
It's
then
content. It's simple content there, just
exactly.
for the game for us to play.
Uh,
The only issue with that is size. I don't know if what they do with its release, because if you notice, the game is already huge in terms of how much space it takes.
yeah, but they could manage that with like technology will allow them to manage that if you could just have the option to uninstall the story or uninstall some part of the game.
Just make the same background. What they could do is the same thing with the combat simulator that they did in Remake and Rebirth. So, say you want to have an archive of all the fights, but you don't want to have a million different textures for it. Okay, use the same room and just put the enemies there.
Yeah,
It's way less than having all the fights.
exactly. And we already saw the content. Like, let us play again. Like, that's the only thing. Lately, that's the only thing that I'm asking for because, well, a leaderboard. I will always ask for a leaderboard so that we remember. Honestly really want to remember that Chaos was first in so many ranks and that you were like second or third
Statistics.
and so on and so forth. Yeah,
Exactly. Statistics.
yeah,
The same way you have a player, the profile where it says synthesis,
yes,
chocobos, or whatever, just have a leaderboard that says that over the 7 guild fights, for example, 6 of them, this is who the MVP players were. Or in the ranking events, this guy is doing top 10 all the time.
yeah.
And this is where his score average is.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, if they do that, which I'm hoping at some point they will listen, which, yeah, sometimes it's really hard to hope, but because I care about the game and I still love it, I would love to see that. So, yeah, that's my wish for for this new year. On that note, would you like to add anything else before we leave for the second episode?
Yeah, patience. I think that they know what we know. I think that they see that there's fatigue in the community. I don't think that they will pivot in a meaningful way right away, but they will definitely carry this message and we will see what happens. I think that it will need at least 3 months before we see any meaningful change. If even today they decided to do that.
Yeah, so normally developer cycles takes at the very least 3 months to implement, unless you are already in that mindset, in which case it will take 2 weeks. But they are not in
Yes,
that mindset. So they will
yes.
take at the very least 3 to 6 months to implement a
Yeah,
change.
realistically, I consider this happening in the second anniversary if it's gonna happen.
Yeah, which is what I'm saving now for. Saving all my blue crystals for second anniversary so that I can continue as free to play and then help get my account back on track for 2 or 3 months, maybe. Let's see.
We'll see. We'll
Exactly.
see. My advice to people that are entirely free to play, though, is still to, if you see that your account is stuck, just roll another one. There's no reason, there's no progress for a pure free to play account.
Well, I disagree on the point that if you have been like a free to play one player since day one, you will have so many titles that are gone forever.
Yeah, sure. But you just said that we don't see them.
Yeah, but maybe you care. I mean, I'm just saying that maybe you care.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing entirely. If
Yeah.
you want to see your account progress slowly, sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that the way the game is designed is that they give you a honeymoon period of a really generous amount of crystals, which if you build your accounts each time that you have specific limited banners available, and you can max on those and move on, I think that is gonna make your account to be able to play the season better than struggling with the previous one.
Yeah.
That is for free to play. Now for whales and dolphins, that's another thing. I think for whales and dolphins, as we have seen,
Yeah.
there is no advice because literally you just follow the meta.
Yeah. Oh,
Bad weapons, good weapons, crap weapons. that crap weapon is what's needed to beat the thing and get into top 10. Okay, I'm buying it.
For West and Dolphin, it's almost like, do you really want to compete in this event? Yes, no.
Yes, it's plain as simple as that.
And also, how
There
much?
is no good or what bad weapon.
Yes, and also how much cash do you have available? Do you have 600 USD? Then maybe consider the yes. If it's less, then be watch out, because maybe you're not gonna even make it to like the top 100, depending on the status of your account, etc. Yeah.
And to be honest, I think that my personal approach of this game, since you actually, that's what I wanted to remember to say, is that I want to issue a shout out to Zofar from our guild, because that's the approach that I used to have in the beginning, and that's the approach that I see myself having moving forward again. Because I am a whale, but I am not in a position to be the Kraken that I was. So I need to limit my options a bit, but still I need to play in a way that is optimal.
Yeah, which, by the way, like one of the reasons why I'm turning free to play, on top of like the fact that I don't like this constant limited break banner, whatever, is that for personal reasons of my career, I need to spend more time away from my computer. And to make the most out of your account, you need to actually be present and play the game. And it's actually something that I really like about the game, that you need to be present and play the game. And if you play on mobile, you are going to be like 10% less efficient if you play on mobile and Wi-Fi.
But actually, I wanted to we forgot about that, and I wanted to say that.
And
the game is not the same on mobile that it used to be in the first year.
Yes, and
it's almost unplayable.
Yes, and even worse, if you're on mobile and you're on Signal, then you're totally relying on Signal, whatever that Signal is. And then honestly, it sucks if you are on bad connection, because you are nerfing your account to 30, 40, 50%. Like I was doing really bad scores because I was pressing a button multiple times and it didn't work. So like because of that, because I'm gonna be traveling more, I need to, it doesn't make sense spending because I'm not gonna get the benefits. Like I'm not gonna be able to play the game. So it's a way for me to chill and also like make a stance. Yeah, and also like if I want the game to improve, I want to be also like vote with your money, no, as they say. So like I want to make sure that, you know, at least I'm not part of something that I disagree, even though I love the game and I'm gonna still playing every day. So yeah, there is also that, and I agree. Like the whole experience in mobile is not great with so many things that we have to do now with the AT management, etc.
The game crashes. That's another problem. That's a really legitimate problem, that you run the game, you try to run a fight, and it crashes because the game is too large for a phone. It takes too much of a memory space.
Yeah, it has happened to me a few times that it crashed.
Or they need. That's another reason why I said that they haven't decided what the game is. If it's a mobile game, then the number one platform for it to be optimal and tailor-made is mobile. So
yeah, I think we're in a that I would love to touch on that in podcast number 3 because I have seen I have seen so many mobile games that are actually 90+% of their player base is on PC. It's just that it happens to be mobile. So let's discuss that next time that we see each other. I'm hoping to do way more episodes. So thank you for coming to the chat, and thank you for everyone chatting and debating topics. As I always say, if you like this type of content, please consider throwing a like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, Edward, seriously, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, and I also hope that we do this again. And I apologize if I cannot read the chat. I had you for that because otherwise I would have 2 feedbacks here. But I hope we addressed at least the points that we had in mind in the beginning.
Yeah, the chat was really awesome. It's just like there were so many comments and I wanted to keep track on like our conversation, and it was fantastic. Thank you, everyone.